Well, I got to know Waylon later in his life. He was very good and very kind to my family. My dad, I think, became friends with him later. I knew the softer Waylon who had cleaned up and loved kids and was making children's albums, and that's the Waylon I knew. And he became like an uncle to my brother and sister were 2 and 5, 2 and 4 when my dad died. So they grew up not knowing anything about him or anything. And Waylon stepped in and was like an uncle to them and really kind to the family. He brought my stepmom on the road to sing with him, to give her something to do in a place. And he was just very, very good to my family. And oh, I got a story. I hesitate to tell. I'll tell that story in a minute. But one cool thing, I one time Waylon asked me if I wanted to go down. He was going to go see Hank Jr. and Travis Tritt down at Starwood, which was open at the time. And he asked me if I want to go. So I went in the limo with Waylon and Shooter, and we were riding in the limo down to Starwood. And Waylon was telling the story about how Buddy Holly had given him a motorcycle, and they wanted to do a display of it at the Country Music Hall of Fame. And Willie couldn't find the pink slip or the sales slip where Buddy had signed it, and it was really distressing him that he couldn't find that sales slip for that motorcycle for the exhibit. So that was the topic of the conversation. I thought, it just is, it's surreal to be sitting in a car and with Waylon going, I can't find that damn pink slip that Buddy gave me. That, what kind of life is that? You know what I mean? And then Waylon wasn't doing real well health-wise at that time. He was struggling a little bit. But when we got there, he did something so cool, and he never spoke of it. I just know that's what was going on. We pull up to the backstage bus area in the limo, and it's me and Waylon and Shooter Jennings in the back. And before we can get out, Waylon says, wait, we're going to wait a minute. And we just sat in the car in silence for just a few minutes. He chatted a little bit about other stuff and stuff. And there are people milling about in this backstage area. And he goes, all right, let's get out now. And what he was doing was building the mystique. He was letting people go, who's in that car? Who's in that car? He was making an entrance. It was so badass. Yeah. He waited till the timing was right to make an entrance. I thought, this is style, man. This is style.
That's what they call it, showbiz.
Showbiz, yeah, exactly. I loved Waylon. I'll never say a bad word. I'll tell you. Oh, it was Billy Joe Shaver. He saw. That's okay. He was driving downtown. He saw Billy Joe Shaver walking down the street, and Waylon pulled up and leaned out the window and said, "Get in, Hoss. Walking's bad for your image." I love that. I love that. But this is a cool story. I'm not going to say the name of the person because I don't want to denigrate anybody, but there was a famous producer-songwriter in this town. And he had come to visit my father when we lived in Santa Fe. And he came up in a motorhome and was traveling across the country because he said he'd lost his spark, his muse. He couldn't write. He didn't know what, he felt lost and out of place or whatever. And my dad said, here, look, I'm going to loan you this guitar. I wrote all my hits on this guitar. He had this old Gibson classical type guitar, and he wrote King of the Road on it. He wrote Dang Me on it. And he said, I'm going to loan you this to inspire you, to get you your muse back. Well, he loaned that guitar to this person, and they didn't see each other for several years, and then my dad died. And so they were going to put together an exhibit at the Country Music Hall of Fame with my dad's Grammys and stuff. And my stepmother wanted to put that guitar in there to say, this is this guitar he wrote all his hits on and King of the Road. So she called this guy and said, that we want to put that in the Hall of Fame. And he said, no, I'm not giving it back to you. Roger gave me that guitar and I'm keeping it. And I thought, that is the worst thing I mean, to a widow and her children, no, you can't put that in the Hall of Fame. So Waylon heard this story, and he knew this story, and this guy at a certain time, Waylon was going to make a new album, and he was putting out the word for producers. I want to meet with some producers and try something new or different. And this guy said, "Can I have a meeting?" And Waylon said, "Yeah, absolutely. Come on down to my office." He had an office on 17th, I guess, 16th. And he came down and he said to this guy, "Come on down to the office and oh, bring that guitar that Roger Miller loaned you." And the guy, couldn't believe that Waylon knew that, whatever. But he did. He brought the guitar. And he came into the meeting and they talked and they were friendly, and Waylon listened to the whole spiel. And Waylon said, "Well, I'm not going to be working with you to produce this record, but thanks for coming in, and you can leave that guitar when you go." And he did. And the guy left the guitar. And Waylon, I get choked up when I think about it. And Waylon was there when they presented it and put it in the Hall of Fame.
I've heard a lot of Waylon stories about him being a badass, whether it be Dynamite or what. That's by far the best Waylon story I've ever heard.
That's one of my favorites of all time. It's a beautiful gesture. Yeah. It was a beautiful gesture. And it tells you about a person's character who would say, "No, I'm not going to give you that to put in the Hall of Fame."
God, yeah.
It tells you a lot about a person's
And it says a lot about that guy knowing who Waylon was to where he left it there.
He left it there. Well, he knew he was wrong. Yeah. He knew he was wrong.
We were talking before the camera started rolling about people buying some of Willie's stuff back from the IRS with the auctions or whatever, giving it back to him, and what it says about Willie and what people thought of him. I think that this is kind of another version of that sort of thing, where your dad must have moved through the world in a certain way to where people like Waylon, wanted things to be right.
Yeah, people, Bill Anderson asked me one time, and lots of people have asked, "What do you think your father's legacy was or is?" And I always said, when people say, "This is Roger Miller's son," or whatever, their face lights up. And they go, "Oh, I got a story." Or, "Oh, that meant so much to me when I was a kid." Oh, but their face lights up when you say his name. And that's a real testament to who he was and what he was. He just made people feel good to be around him. Waylon had gotten a Jaguar, bought a Jaguar car, and his assistant or whatever went down and picked it up, or he drove it. I guess he drove it home, and the handle on the driver's side was broken. So he called the dealership and said, "I bought this car, then I want this handle fixed." And they said, "No, it's not part of our warranty, or maybe it was used." I don't know what the story was, but they were going to charge him to fix it. And he said, "Look, I bought this piece of shit car from you, and I want this piece of shit fixed right now. I want it fixed right now." And so the guy said, we're just not going to do it for free or whatever. So Waylon called, I guess, Jaguar headquarters or whatever, and said, I want to speak to the head of Jaguar, and I want him to fix this piece of shit car they sold me or whatever. So however long it was later, this guy, from the head of Jaguar or whatever, calls Waylon and says, "I understand you bought a piece of shit car from us with a piece of shit handle, and this piece of shit is causing you great distress, and we don't want any piece of shit car of ours to..." He kept saying it over and over and over again. So the guy said, "Mr. Jennings, I'd like you to go down to the car lot there and pick out any piece of shit you find there, and you can have any piece of shit car that you want for no charge, and just give us the one with the bad handle." But they kept saying "piece of shit" over and over again in their exchanges with each other. So I love that story too.
That's good.
Yeah. I just loved Waylon so much, man. I got so many memories of just what a beautiful person he was, And that's proof positive that these people have these images of being outlaws and badass and all that, but they're kind, decent people, Yeah. He was anyway,
I feel awkward saying this out loud, but to you, in Waylon's book, he said that Roger Miller had a suitcase full of drugs.
Right.
And it's the first time that I ever thought of a lot of the uppers that they were taking, or he was just saying that the doctors gave them to us. And maybe by the time you realize there's a problem, you know, you really have a problem or whatever.
Right,
But you go into it thinking the doctor gave it to me. It's
Right.
got to be healthy or whatever.
Right.
It kind of changed the way I thought about stuff like that a little bit. But
Well, it was public knowledge that my dad struggled with drug use most of his life. And I think he honestly felt that he wasn't as creative without it. Like, I think he felt it fueled his songwriting and his creativity. But he did clean up later in life and periodic times in his life. And he didn't like talking about it, but I saw him talk about it in interviews. People ask about it. And it's not his proudest thing in his life, but yes, he was known. There was a story written one time. They said, I think it was Rolling Stone said, when Roger Miller invites you to a party, it's not an invitation, it's a challenge. So that kind of sums it up. I think everyone knew he was pretty wild. Yeah. At that time, we didn't have Oprah and Dr. Phil telling us how to sort out our childhood issues and talk to your parents and all these, you know, people were coping with stuff. My dad had a horrific childhood, you know, and I'm sure he was coping with stuff and dealing with life and pressures of fame and all of these many, many things. So I'm sure there are a lot of elements to
he's touring with very uncomfortable, probably
cars
on no interstate system.
Oh, when he had the chance, the first thing he wanted to do was stop taking a bus. He didn't want to take the tour bus. He didn't like it. He was a Learjet lifestyle kind of guy. And when he was later in life, he didn't want to tour at all if he didn't have to. His agent told him one time, "You're the only artist I have who begs me not to work." Okay, so there was that. Yeah.
It's a common thing where a lot of people have heard those stories with, you know, when I interview people, like Jerry Jeffs, they never get stuck in the tube. John Prine didn't want to be in the tube, the tour bus. Todd Snyder, there towards the end, just never wanted to be in a tour bus again in his life.
It's draining. Gretchen Wilson, I heard her say one time, every city in the world, to me, looks like the back of a venue. So they all look the same. They just look like the back of a venue, right? You know. So I don't know. I feel like in my life I kind of dodged a bullet by not having my exact vision work out like I wanted it to, because I always thought I wanted to be a star and be on the tour bus life. But I ended up producing records and stuff, and I get to do the music, live the lifestyle, write the songs. I make my own records, and I do all this stuff, and I don't have to go anywhere or do that stuff. And I feel like I live right in the perfect pocket where I can have my home and my dog and all this stuff and make my music, but I don't have to go out there and be in a bus 250 days a year or something.
Could work within 20 miles,
Right.
Get a little money in the mailbox every now and then.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm able to pick up the phone and go, "Are you available for this session?" and call the greatest musicians in the world and have them. And it's just such a privilege.
It's an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the
It really
musicians.
is. And when you're on a session and you go like, "Oh, the bass player can't come," or whatever, and you go, "Well, I got 5 choices." You know what I mean? What a problem to have. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable. This town is unbelievable. It's beautiful.